So let's take a look at my overall favorite camera on the Nikon F professional line of film cameras. Now check out my other videos which rate the best sounds, the best advancements, the best viewfinder, best to hold, best look, favorite and least favorite features. This is the big one. It takes into account all of those different ratings and which is my overall favorite from 6th to 1st. Which do I enjoy using the most? If I'm reaching for a camera, which one of these do I choose? In 6th place we have the Nikon F. It was made from 1959 to 1973. For 14 years, they made 860,000 units in that time. It's one of my favorite cameras when it comes to looks, especially with this prism on it. It had some great advancements when it was introduced. It combined innovations from other camera makers, and the F SLR really was a modular system. The camera was the one that was used by photojournalists. To change the film, you have to take the back completely off, so you don't want to drop it because it can dent it. The shutter release is not at the front of the camera, so you have to reach back a bit. It's all mechanical. This one has no meter, so you have to use a handheld meter. And it's just a lot of work to use. It's just a different experience when compared to the other cameras. Not a bad experience, just a different experience. In 5th place for my overall favorite camera is the Nikon F4. It was made from 1988 to 1997, so for 9 years. They made 300,000 units. It was a huge jump in technology from the F3 to the F4. It had autofocus, matrix metering, built-in motor drive. The viewfinder display was excellent. It had shutter priority. The flash was on the viewfinder. It had a built-in diopter. The flash sync speed was 1/250th of a second. The shutter speeds were 30 seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. Some of the innovations that happened in this camera are still seen today in cameras. It had some great accessories. The MF23 back, which you could put on, actually printed information about your pictures in between the frames. That same MF23 back allowed you to freeze focus, so when your subject came into focus, it would take a picture. It also had a 250 roll back. It was the last F professional camera to have one. Now the AF is a bit slower in today's standards. It's kind of the bridge camera between manual and autofocus. It has great sounds. There's lots of knobs and dials, but it's just a bit bigger and bulkier. But right now it's still a great value for a camera. In 4th place for my overall favorite camera is the Nikon F2. It was made from 1971 to 1980, so 9 years, and they made 2 million units. It's a manual mechanical camera. The advancements for this camera were in the viewfinder. They had 5 different metered viewfinders and one, the DE1, which did not have a meter. But there wasn't a lot otherwise. So there were smaller prisms because it didn't have the battery in there. The battery is in the camera body. The top shutter speed was 1/2000th of a second. The film door attached. The shutter was moved forward. And there's a few more. It did have an incredible amount of accessories. They had a 750 roll back, the only Nikon F camera to have that 750 roll back. You could imprint on the frame in the camera. You get a special back. It was quite bulky and big. There was an EE aperture control unit, and that gave you shutter priority, which you never had in the F3, and it wasn't until the F4 that you had that. And it's a camera that is beloved by many. There's almost a cult following. You set the aperture and the shutter speed separately. I'm not a fan of the film advance lever. You have to have it out, and when I have it up to my head, it bumps into my forehead, but it's mechanical, solid feel. This thing is going to last. It can take some time to get the shot because you're setting the aperture and shutter speed separately, but that's part of the joy of this camera. In 3rd place, we have the Nikon F5. Now, it was made from 1996 to 2004, so 8 years. They made between 200 and 250,000 units. It has a great viewfinder. It has a great grip. The ergonomics on this are fantastic. Makes some amazing sounds. It's super fast in everything it does. The autofocus, the rewind, 8 frames per second. There's some excellent innovations. It had multiple autofocus points. It had dynamic autofocus. It had an AF on button. The main and sub command dials. You could download the shooting data. Now, it did let go of a few things. It didn't have the modular system. The grip was already built in. There were no dials. and you didn't have a 250 roll back. But now this is a great value when it comes to this camera. You can often pick up this camera for a great deal. It works well, it's responsive, so I know I'm gonna get the shot. It is a bit heavier and larger. It's easier to hold in my right hand than it is in my left hand when there's a lens on there. All of the F cameras can leave the grip behind, but not with this F5. But it is a great camera. In second place for my overall favorite cameras is the Nikon F3. It was made from 1980 to 2001. 21 years, the most of any Nikon F professional camera. They made 3 million units. Now it's nice and compact. It feels great in my right hand or my left hand. It has some iconic sounds, especially with the MD4 motor drive attached. It's a beautiful looking camera. It has the most variations in function in a camera body of any of the Nikon F cameras. The Nikon F3 AF had autofocus, which this doesn't have. The F3P and the F3 Limited had a hot shoe on the prism and an easier to open film door, as well as some other functions. There was also the F3H, which shot at 13.5 frames per second. But when it comes to innovations, it was not the greatest. It did have aperture priority and an improved film advanced lever and a more accurate electronically timed shutter and a multiple exposure button, but it was still 1/2000th of a second, the same as the F2. But this is an excellent value when it comes to a camera. I love this camera. I own a number of F3s. If you're happy to manually focus and you want a camera going around, this is a great, great choice. I love the Nikon F3. My overall favorite camera is the Nikon F6. It was made between 2004 and 2020, so 14 years. They made between 150 and 200,000 units. It is everything I want in a camera. It is such an amazing experience. For me, this is the ultimate film SLR. I love the look. It has the best viewfinder. It's perfect to hold. Great customization. I can download the shooting data. The autofocus is excellent. There are 11 autofocus points that light up. It is less modular. There is no interchangeable viewfinder like the other F cameras. There's no 250 roll back, but the F5 didn't have one of those either. It does go back to an optional grip, which the F5 doesn't have. And included is the imprinting between frames, which is fantastic. For the other cameras, you had to get a special back to do that. I have full confidence in the F6 in whatever I am doing. There's no need for ADR, aperture direct readout, for non-CPU lenses. You can add that data into the camera and then you will see the aperture in the viewfinder, which is fantastic. Now the cost is the downside. It is an expensive camera, but for me, it is worth it if you can find it. You know, I hear people say, it's not a professional camera, it's more like a digital camera. You know, maybe those people don't own one or have never used it. It's just the next evolution of film in film cameras. So the F6, my favorite, absolute favorite film F camera. I would love to hear what you think, because what works for me may be different than what works for you. Do you have any thoughts or questions? Please put them in the comments below. Do you have any features or comparisons that you would like to see with these incredible cameras? If you like the content I'm creating, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much.